And it's Skybound with the Talking Joe guys. Everyone calm down. We're here to talk comics, and it's Skybound with the Talking Joe guys. Everyone calm down. We're here to talk comics. Skybound. Hey, it's me, Mark, and welcome to Talking Joe, the G.I Joe comics podcast. Now, today we are talking to a very special guest. It is Tom Reilly, the artist of Duke, but I will not be doing that alone. As always, I will be joined by my co-host, Tim Finn, and here he is.
Woo. Hello, Mark, and hello, listeners and viewers. Let's bring in our guest.
Here we go. Here is Tom, and my blurb is Tom Reilly is a comic book artist, illustrator, and Eagle Scout from Michigan. He is a graduate of the Rhode of Design. Tom is known for his work at Marvel, which includes Antman and The Thing. At DC Comics, he recently worked on Night Terror's Superman with Joshua Williamson before teaming up again with him for the 5-issue Duke miniseries, which was the launchpad for G.I Joe in the new Skybound Energon Universe. And he is here today to talk to us. Hooray! Welcome, Tom.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
An absolute pleasure. But you, so you're not Eagle Scouting in Ypsilanti, pronounced probably wrong, Michigan today. You're okay. Now you're now in Rhode Island.
Yes, back in Rhode Island. And they should be able to take the Eagle Scout thing away from you, because I haven't done anything with that since I was like 14 or something. So they should be able to revoke
Does it
that.
ever go away?
It doesn't. No. And it should.
I would imagine that being an Eagle Scout is in many ways the opposite of being a comic book artist. Much time spent outside with other people, much time spent inside by yourself.
Yeah, it's, good to have a broad range of experiences, I guess.
You've been outside, don't need to do that ever again now.
I did the outside thing, and now I'm firmly entrenched inside. So.
And Rhode Island, that's the home of the Rhode Island Ferry, which is a part of G.I Joe lore, if I'm not getting myself confused.
You said there wouldn't be a quiz.
Are you, Mark?
I was waiting for Tim to clarify.
Mark, are you thinking of the Staten Island Ferry?
Oh, Staten Island. I've showed myself up here. Staten Island.
That's
Rhode
okay.
Island,
I was going to say, I don't remember a ferry.
New York City has 5 boroughs, and two of them are islands, Manhattan and Staten Island, and the Joes have taken the Staten Island Ferry to their headquarters there. Rhode Island.
Crazy.
Rhode Island is known.
They don't have a submarine to take them to their headquarters. They have to take the ferry.
Well, but their headquarters is hiding in plain sight.
I see.
And where's while we're talking about the islands of New York, where's the Supermax prison where they keep all of the villains?
Is this still the G.I Joe universe? Are you talking about the raft
Marvel universe
or the vault?
Rikers Island.
Rikers Island is real. I think that's in the Bronx, but I don't know. I don't know where the vault.
Okay.
Oh, the vault is under.
I might be getting my. Yeah,
isn't the
we're
vault
deviating
underwater in the Atlantic, and the raft is underground in the Midwest?
I don't know. I'm out of my comfort zone now.
I thought the raft is in the ocean because it's called the raft.
The raft is in the ocean. The vault is underground in the Midwest.
That's right.
Strong about G.I Joe.
It's comics,
Tom, I actually want to jump to the very end and ask an important question. When can we expect you to draw G.I Joe again, and why not?
I hopefully at some point, and who knows? I don't know. I
Ooh,
just finished this up,
crikey.
so
That
I'm enjoying my time off,
Um,
and
uh,
I'm not thinking about the next thing yet because it's
okay. Well,
that is leaving the door open. Very exciting.
that's a
Your
good.
work can be seen on on a variant cover for the upcoming Energon Universe.
yes, drawn by Jason Howard. This little story is his stuff is awesome. He's been doing the variant covers for the like second, third printing editions,
That's right. Yeah.
and those little pinups are awesome that he's been doing.
Um, can you talk a little bit about, since we're at the end and you're on a break, a well-deserved break that you are enjoying? Can you talk about your process of lining up a next project and how much time you as a freelancer might want between projects?
I never get as much time as I want between projects. I'd ideally get a couple weeks, few weeks off between projects. It's usually a week maybe. And lining projects up is kind of tough because you get several different offers and then you have to weigh each one, and you can only really do so many projects in your whole life, you know? Like this
Mm.
book, Duke, took me about a year, a little bit less than a year to do all of like the 5 issues and the prep and everything. So you only get a limited number of years. Uh, I got to choose really what I want to do, what I want to spend kind of a long time doing and getting invested in. So I weigh all
Mm.
my options very seriously when I get them, and I agonize over them. My girlfriend would tell you that I just agonize over them, and I eventually just end up picking the one that I feel like I would have the most fun doing, and that's what I did with this one with Duke, and it was a lot of fun.
Mm.
I
And
maybe go for it, Mark.
I was going to say, in the interviews that I've heard with Joshua Williamson, he talked about how much he admired your work and really wanted to work with you, and it's really just been biding his time, trying to figure out the right project, that you guys can work on together.
Yeah, we actually tried to work together on like a creator-owned book in 2020, and then that was during the whole pencils down COVID Marvel DC like paper shortage thing. So a lot of commercial comics work kind of got paused, and we got to talking about creator-owned work. And then DC stuff picked up for him, and Marvel stuff picked up for me, and we kind of had to put that on the back burner for a couple years. And finally ended up working together on Superman last year. And then I think during working on that, he sent me an email saying that he recommended me for this G.I Joe thing that Robert Kirkman was doing. And it sounded like a pretty cool idea. I like working with Josh a lot, so I hope I get to work with him more because he's a super cool dude.
And how far did your creator-owned project get? How fleshed out did it become beyond just the idea that it'd be great to work together?
I drew like 10 pages of it. It was
Oh,
like
wow.
a 60-page graphic novel sort of thing. Sort of like a Sean Phillips, Ed Brubaker sort of thing. Short and sweet. So I got, I guess, about a sixth of the way through. But then other projects started picking up for both of us, and it kind of fell by the wayside.
Is the idea here that a creator-owned project, no one is paying you to do it. So all the time you're spending doing that, you're not getting paid. And if a DC or Image project comes along with a page rate, you may want to or need to take that. That's the...
Yeah, and it was early in my career, and I think this is when I was asked to draw The Thing. So getting a shot at like an iconic character like that can kind of get your name out there a little bit more so than a creator-owned book. sometimes it is a good business decision to take those books. And I had a great time drawing The Thing, working with Walter Mosley, a legendary writer. So,
can you differentiate for us? All right, so Al Ewing wrote the Antman miniseries that you drew. Walter Mosley wrote the Thing miniseries that you drew, and you've collaborated with Joshua Williamson on 2 projects. Can you differentiate for us what it is like to work with either those 3 writers, or let's say 3 different writers? Or is maybe the question, what are some differences between working for DC, Marvel, Skybound?
I don't know so much that there are a lot of differences because all these people work for all of these companies, pretty much. Al works at Marvel and DC. Josh works at Skybound and DC, and Walter was the kind of the outlier because he's like he's like a writer of books and stuff. But his scripts were really, for someone who had never done it before, easy to work from like a comics standpoint. He kind of understood it. He's a fan of the comics long time, so he eased into it pretty well. I mean, because that speaks to his talent as a writer in general too. So I don't know that there are many differences. It would just come down to the people who I'm working with. And oh, sorry.
Is there anything like one writer had more plot based or less script based, or one writer was seeking some of your input in an early stage?
It's fairly collaborative all around. I'm given like a general story layout, and I'm able to kind of add things or take things away if I want to, if I think it'll enhance the story visually. And I can turn in pages and they can ask me to add some things that weren't there or take some things away. So it's fairly open and collaborative across the board. Al, for the Ant-Man series, I'd say he had a more specific, sometimes there were very well laid out kind of descriptions of panels in the script because he was trying to capture specific eras of comics. You know, we kind of did the style match stuff with the art, and in the same way that I did that, he did kind of a style match with the writers who wrote the books back then. Like Robert Kirkman did the irredeemable Ant-Man stuff, and he wrote it in a specific way, and the panels were all spaced out in specific ways to fit that. So he would let me know specific layouts for that he wanted for pacing reasons, and I would follow those. But Josh, what? Yeah.
I was probably going to say the same thing you're about to start talking about now. That was there sort of tangible examples from working on Duke of Josh, for example, saying to you, what would you like to? Is there anything that you'd like to draw, or ask you for specific kind of input on scenes or anything like that?
Not really. I probably told him I just wanted to draw some like badass stuff with explosions, and I was able to do that plenty. Yeah. So, but he did let me there were times where the script had something in it and I kind of deviated a little bit visually from what was in the script, and he was cool with it, and it was a good kind of collaborative thing where he did let me do some stuff that I thought would be cool to do that was not written down. So it is fun working with Josh. I enjoy it. And I hope he's not miffed that I sometimes tweak the script a little bit.
I get the sense that writers who like and trust their collaborators' talents and instincts are pleased when the artist changes something because it's for the better. And if the artist changes something for the worse, then maybe the editor will hear about it, and then maybe the artist hears about it, or then maybe there isn't another collaboration.
Yeah, trust is a big part of it, and that goes not just for me and Josh, it goes for me and Jordy too, because she's a great colorist, and I just kind of give her the line work and let her do her thing. I never really have any notes or input for her on how she chooses to color stuff.
So
it always comes out great.
All the blinds in the beginning of issue 1?
I did that in gray tones. That was sometimes if there's a specific thing that I'll want like conveyed, I'll throw in some gray tones. And I had to do all those panel lines myself. I would not make Jordy do that. I wouldn't say make it look like the really like horrible stuff. Like, yeah, the shades that you see there, I will do that myself because Jordy's got like, she's working on like 4 books at a time. She doesn't have time to do that. So I did that. And as soon as I started, I wished I had done something different, but I had to commit.
What, on the blind pages?
Yeah, because I realized after page 1, this is going to happen for like 5 more pages.
Am I seeing a tiny difference in Hawk's head from the inks to the colors? Did that head get redrawn? It looks like.
Oh yeah. I sometimes I just don't like a head. I'll just redraw it on a piece of paper.
And then what about Duke's hair on the cover of issue 1?
That was there's some editorial, back and forth as to how we wanted to portray him. So they originally wanted him to look like this, how he kind of looks in his more scraggly on the run sort of look for most of the book. And then they kind of decided they wanted him to look just like classic Duke. So I once again had to draw another head, just slap it on there, which is fine especially for kind of commercial comics like this. There is some editorial back and forth that comes from like the top Hasbro stuff, but they were pretty hands off with the Duke book. They were pretty cool with everything that we did. So I'm pleased with that.
Mark, can you zoom in on the bottom, like third? I just want to point out the ink wash just over the number on the bottom left, where the black ink becomes gray and then it's white.
Oh, that's a graphite. That's just a pencil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tom, I really like this artwork, and I'm
thank you.
I'm keeping it together because I need to be professional as the interview guy for the podcast. But I really like the art, and the storytelling and the design, and I have so many questions.
I'm here to answer.
Okay, so
yeah,
can you talk?
While we were just talking about it, I was just going to say, while we were on the subject of sort of working with Jordi Belair and on the colors, I wonder if that was just an idea that we can return to. You said that for the most part, you just left it to her because it seems like such a a kind of a sympathetic fit that the art, your lines and Jordi's colors just work together so well and just make absolutely every page sort of pop. And the things that we were looking at in terms of like change of scene, sort of creating that mood with sort of like just in this one, for example, sort of ping-ponging between the flashbacks in the orange, the subdued lighting in that office. It makes it so everything's so clear and easy to follow. Maybe you can sort of touch on how you're able to have that sort of work so well.
I've been working with a Jordy now for like 3-4 years. She was my colorist on The Thing and Antman both.
Right.
For Marvel. So I've been working with her for a while. And also, I don't know how many Eisners Jordy's got, but it's more than I do. So if she has an idea of how to color something that she wants to do and finds it fun, I'm not going to tell her not to do that. I'm just going to stay out of her way as best I can. So I didn't tell her to do any like orange on the flashbacks here. I didn't tell her to make like kind of a golden hour sort of color scheme here. That's just all Jordy. That is not me. And I do think it levels up the work across the board. I think the book, the colors are awesome on the whole book. And I'm very pleased with them. And it's different every time we work together. It is different every time. So I don't know how she can do that.
And Geordie wasn't credited on the covers, which made us wonder whether that was your colors. Is that right?
I color my covers myself, yeah. So that's the only thing that I will color.
And and if I had not known, I mean, if there hadn't been credits listed,
yeah,
I would have thought you drew them and Jordy Belair colored them, because they do look analogous to the interiors. So I feel like your approach to color is in the direction of Jordy Belair's approach to color.
That is a huge compliment to me. So, and I don't know fully if I can accept that because she's so good, but I appreciate it.
Like, I can imagine Jordy Belair might not have colored this cover this way.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think can be challenging for some comics readers is like separating color from art, imagining a different color approach to the same piece of art, just as it's sometimes hard to separate like drawing from storytelling or like dialogue from script. And like occasionally in the sort of history of like how comics are made, there have been some fun examples. There was an issue of, I want to say Marvel Vision, which was like a Marvel magazine that was published in the 90s, where they had 3 different colorists, each color, I think it was a Joe Madureira Uncanny X-Men page. And it may have even just been like one panel. And Mark Chiarello in his half of the how to color and letter comics the DC way, or the DC Comics Guide to Coloring and Lettering, right? He has a Mike Mignola panel of Dead Man that he shows colored 2 ways. One way that he says is sort of wrong, and one way that he says is sort of right. And so I think that I think Jordy Belair and also your covers are not using a ton of saturation, not using a ton of rendering, and the colors are very much in agreement with the art, even if there are several ways that the colors could be in agreement with the art. And I think the cover that Mark's put up right now is quickly becoming an all-time great G.I. Joe cover. And I wanted to ask you about that. Wanted to ask you about that water tower.
I assumed that would be like the pit water tower.
Oh, that makes sense. Right.
I don't know. I don't actually know if it's a water tower or like a radio tower, but in the Energon universe, it is a water tower.
That's right.
There's kind of a battle for the pit, sort of.
That's right. There's.
I got the water tower right there, and that's a little bit bigger, maybe, than it usually is portrayed, but that's okay.
So we've sort of started getting right into the detail, and maybe we rewind back to one of our early questions, and I'll put on an image here that sort of I think will help illustrate that sort of the 2 things together. So what I've put on screen is an image which was a cover recreation of G.I. Joe 95, originally done by Andy Kubert, and was a commission that Tom did for my brother Peter, where we were sort of asking various artists to sort of do a take on a classic cover, and we both really liked your art, primarily I think just discovering you from your social media postings that you're making at the time, because it was quite early on in your career.
2019,
and so Peter reached out to you for a commission, and this is the resulting image. So it was really cool to then see you come on to Duke with basically the only public illustration of G.I. Joe that you've done up to that point, something that my brother had asked you to do, which was really cool. What's your memory of
yeah? What's my memory?
Yeah, of doing this piece. Yeah.
I remember thinking that the original cover was super awesome. He's doing the new covers for Skybound now.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we have both made it back, and those covers are amazing too. So he's only gotten better.
So Tim and I, and a lot of G.I. Joe fans, are of a generation where we were able to kind of enjoy the original release of G.I. Joe as it was coming out in the 1980s. I think, Tom, you're a little bit younger than ourselves, so you've probably got a different kind of experience of discovering G.I. Joe. Can you tell us about your own personal kind of connection to G.I. Joe, about, you know, what you, before working on Duke, kind of what you had kind of knew of it, had encountered of it up to that point?
I might get myself kicked off the podcast here. I was never a massive G.I. Joe fan. I wasn't. Everybody had the toys, you know. Even when I was growing up, like early 2000s stuff, everybody had the toys still. I saw the Channing Tatum movies, which they're not good. I do like Channing Tatum though. And there's maybe a little bit of Channing Tatum influence in the Duke that I did, because he's a cool dude. But I mean, my knowledge of the property, I'd seen some of the cartoon stuff. I saw the like dubbed YouTube video PSAs.
Mm-hmm.
Those are fun.
Sandwiches.
I think those are pork chop sandwiches. And I knew, like, everybody knows Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, all the Cobra guys, and I kind of got the general gist of how the dynamic was. But I was not really a historian or student of the property, and that may have been the reason I got chosen to do this, is because it's a new take, and I don't really have a lot of preconceived biases or, you know, notions about the property, so I can kind of go in with a fresh take. And Josh is the one he's the super G.I. Joe nerd, and he knows everything about it, and he makes sure that we don't stray too far, but that we are still going in an interesting, fun, new direction.
In terms of being a fan or not being a fan, I know there's this phenomenon where, you know, like an actor gets cast in a movie, you know, like a Batman movie or Turtles or a Marvel movie, and fans and interviewers want to know, it's like, when did you first start liking Batman, or have you read the comics, because you're going to play this character? And a lot of fans want the answer to be yes. Yes, I have read the comics. And a professional once said to me, who had worked on G.I. Joe and was like applying for a different job years later, he said, I'm a professional and I don't need to be a fan, because I draw and I can draw this property. And he was saying this really nicely, but he was sort of lightly pushing back at this idea that that I don't think anyone is like taking really seriously, but I do feel like it's sort of layered a little bit on everyone, because it's just sort of fun. It's totally cool that you were not a huge fan or all that knowledgeable of G.I. Joe, because
I was a fan. I like G.I. Joe, and even not being super into it, I recognize the Cobra lineup of villains is one of the best lineups, like any sort of property. Cobra Commander, Destro, the Baroness, they're all super iconic and cool. And just because I wasn't super into it doesn't mean that I didn't take it very seriously either. I did a lot of research, and no one is, I know you're not accusing me of not doing that, but just because I was not super into it, I'm now pretty into it.
That was going to be my next question. Having worked on it.
The same professional said to me, it's like, I got hired on this other job and I became a fan of it.
Yeah. I absolutely see. It's like super fun. And it was very enjoyable to do. So
Can you talk about okay, so you described this 5-issue miniseries as taking a year between the prep and the actual doing. So you penciled and inked. So can you talk about that year? How long was and what was the prep? And
sure,
how
it's
long does it take you to do an issue of a book?
and it wasn't a year. I don't think I got asked to do it. I think in July, and then I guess it went all the way through till about February. So 7 months, 8 months, a little, the better part of a year.
Mm-hmm.
And how long does it take? It usually takes 5 weeks, 6 weeks to get a book drawn. Schedules can be a little flexible, just depending on like unforeseen circumstances, all that sort of stuff. You can kind of bake in some extra time. But I like to get things done in like 5.5 weeks.
And
And
you see yourself as you are providing all the art. You are the penciler and the inker.
I'm doing layouts, pencils, and inks. Yeah.
And you're not interested in being just the penciler for a project.
I don't know how that would work. No, I just like doing the inks and stuff.
Because the both halves of it to you are like inseparable, or you want that final level of control?
Well, I'm a terrible penciler, number one. So I don't think I could do pencils clean enough to have an inker. I don't know how my stuff would look. Like you said, with colors, there's a bunch of different ways to color something. There's a bunch of different ways to ink something too, and every different inker is going to ink your stuff in a different way. And other people may not notice it so much, but I would notice it for sure. So I like doing the inks myself. I think it's fun, and I can do it. And I can do it in the amount of time required for me to do it, and I get paid more to do it. So, and then I can sell the pages after the fully inked pages.
Yeah.
So,
Is your are you drawing thumbnails or layouts very small and blowing them up? Are you doing those digitally? Are you printing blue line pencils and inking on Bristol? What's your process for a page?
I do layouts small. I've got a little kind of template. I can do 4 layouts on an 8x11 sheet of paper. So they're pretty small. They're like that big. And I can throw them into Photoshop, and then I print them out larger in blue lines, which is what I needed my printer for here. I
So
used to
the
not do
photo-
that, but it's a huge time saver to just know where everything is going to go, basically.
So that Photoshop blue line process stage that's primarily taking your hand drawn layout, making it bigger, and then printing it big for
Yeah.
you to do the bulk of the work on the page. So it's less of an inking, tidying job and more of a drawing job. It's just helping
I
with
still
the layout.
pencil over those little things, so I've got pencil marks on, and then I ink it, and then I erase the pencils. But yeah, it is just kind of a basic framework for me to place everything compositionally where I want to place it. When things are kind of big, like this double spread is pretty big, you can kind of lose sight of the whole picture. You got to kind of put it a few feet away and look at it and make sure that everything is kind of where you want it to be.
Yeah, because if you've got if you've got a 22 by 17 canvas
That's
in
not
front of
what
you.
this is, but
Oh, okay.
for speed, this is just an 11 by 17 flipped on its side.
Oh,
Because there's nothing on here that is like super small that I needed.
okay. But your other pages are drawn at normal 11 by 17. You're not
For the
drawing
most
them
part.
all. Okay.
For the most part. Sometimes I will do smaller. Sometimes I'll actually never do bigger. Sometimes I'll just do smaller because it saves time. If it's a spread where there's not a whole lot on there, I'll do same thing that I do here. Just flip an 11 by 17 and draw it smaller. Because it takes half the time to do it half the size. Same thing here. That's an 11 by 17 flipped on its side. Still a big drawing, but just not quite as big.
And
it's
and
closer to print size too, so
Hmm.
you can kind of see better how it's going to turn out in print when it's a little bit smaller.
And then just to fill in a gap here for listeners who may not know the process, we've been talking about blue line, right? So
Yeah.
if the artist prints on Bristol, right? If their printer takes Bristol board, not just regular paper, and they have drawn pencils digitally in very light blue, or they have turned their hand-drawn thumbnails into very light blue, and then draw and ink on top of that. When you rescan that in Photoshop, you can select all the light blue and delete it, and then you're left with just the black and white. I'm skipping a couple steps here, but
yeah, I mess with the levels and stuff. I don't do blue lines either. I do, if you can see, I do red lines just because I think it's cool and it works the same.
Okay.
But it's the same sort of deal.
Can we go back further? What are the steps of you learning to draw comics? From who or from what did you realize you wanted to draw comics, and what people or lessons or books or artists did you encounter that informed this sort of drawing skill and storytelling skill?
I had, when I was a kid, I feel like everybody had How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way with John Buscema. That's such a good book. I wish I still had a copy of that. Mine was like the cover was falling off. I was looking in that every day. I hadn't really seriously thought about making comics until I was about to graduate college. And I'd always liked comic art. I always loved like Darwin Cook stuff and Bruce Timm stuff. And then a guy that I discovered him in college. I hadn't ever seen him before. Chris Somney, his stuff, which I'm sure you can see in my work. I was like, wow, that is incredible. And like stuff like Doc Shaner's work also that I discovered from social media. Those guys were making amazing comics, kind of the way that I would have liked to make them and stuff. So I tried to learn from them by looking at their stuff, and like I learned about Alex Toth and tried to absorb information from him too. And then go back and look at, God, that Marvel Way book is so good. I'm just thinking about it. I wish I still had a copy. I have to go buy one or something.
I know a comic book store in Somerville, Massachusetts. That has
Oh
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to put it on the map.
So illustration is a particular kind of drawing where you're drawing a story, drawing a message, drawing something that is to be mass produced, as distinct from fine arts.
Mm-hmm.
And you were in school for that, so you must have taken a lot of illustration classes and maybe a comics class.
There was like one comics class, but it taught me about the workload for sure. I had to do like 20 pages every week in that class or something. And they were terrible and it was awful, but it taught me that it's a lot of work and it's not as much work as that. So if I could do that, get a passing grade in that class, none of the stuff I turned in was any good whatsoever, but I did pass and I learned that I could do the work, which is the most important thing about comics, is being able to do the work on time. Being good does help, but they do say it's better to be
it's a bonus.
like available and reliable than good.
Was this the class taught by our Kikuo Johnson?
No, it was not.
Okay.
I don't think he was teaching at the time. at
Oh, he
RISD
came.
when I was there.
He came after. Okay.
I think so. I was in school in like 2017 or something, so
Okay.
he was not there.
Okay.
It was taught by a guy named Paul Karasek.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep, he was an Eisner winner for the compendium of like the Fletcher comics.
Yeah. Fletcher Hanks.
Yeah,
Yeah. Fantagraphics published those two soft covers and then the complete hardcover.
yeah. So it was his class, and he just made us do all this crap that we were not going to have to do in comics, but it taught us about the workload. It was insane. So that's what I took from it.
Okay.
And then a lot of illustration classes, life drawing classes, perspective classes, all that sort of stuff. And it definitely helped. Definitely helped it improve the skills. I feel like I got a little bit better though when I graduated and just actually had time to focus on what I wanted to do more and kind of apply the skills that I learned there to like one thing. Because at RISD, you're doing 5-6 different classes and they're all different. And you got to turn in something every week for these classes, like every day. So you're getting spread thin a little bit. Another good lesson about workload and how to manage a high workload, which is most of what comics, the daily sort of grind is managing the workload. So
can you talk about once you were out of school, how you got to those first comics jobs?
it was all social media. That's it. So that's how you found me to get the commission done, and that's how people found me to get jobs. You used to be able to like walk into the Marvel office with a portfolio, and you can't do that anymore. This is kind of the modern version of that. All the editors for all the different companies have Twitter accounts, Instagram accounts, and they're always looking for new, exciting talent. And there's plenty of it out there to be found on the internet. So it was just social media, just posting routinely, daily, all that stuff, doing sample pages. I was able to go to a convention or two and try and get portfolio reviews that I didn't get, but that cost money, so I couldn't go to a lot of those. But it was very reliable to just be able to post work that I'm doing on the internet as I'm getting better, and people eventually started to see it, and that is how I got my jobs.
This question.
Do you think in the internet, just following on from that point, do you think in the internet age, it's still useful to be so close to New York and sort of the center of things, particularly for Marvel, or does it not really make much of a difference?
Doesn't matter. There are people who work across the world for Marvel and stuff, and they're incredible. And I don't think it matters. I don't think that I get an advantage being geographically closer to, because I've never been to the Marvel offices or anything. You like can't go there.
There you go.
I don't think it really matters, which is good. Comics kind of has become more widespread. There's a lot of worldwide talent working in comics nowadays.
Yeah, there was a big shift in the 70s because of Federal Express. Jack Kirby left New York and moved to California and was mailing his Fourth World arts to DC. And
it's all online now. Yeah. I scan it in and I email it over, and I don't need to hand deliver it or anything. So it's great.
All right, so this question, this question already has an expiration date, but sort of the me of 2 years ago sort of wants to ask a version of it anyway.
Sure.
When you were drawing The Thing, your art was retro, to use an imprecise term, and a lot of like Marvel and DC, sometimes when they do a modern story that takes place in the past, an artist either draws in an older style or the editor finds an artist who draws in what we would consider an older style. And certainly that Thing miniseries, right? So for listeners, it was 4 issues and each one takes place in a different era, including the future in the final issue. And I remember looking at it and thinking,
that's the Ant-Man, yeah.
Sorry, did I say Thing or Ant-Man?
Yeah, the Thing.
Okay, sorry.
But the Ant-Man is the 4-issue one. Yeah.
Yes, the Antman miniseries, each issue takes place in a different time period, including the final issue, which is the future. And I remember thinking, oh, this guy's work is really good. I wonder if he is being typecast or will feel typecast, that he can only do retro stuff. Because Darwin Cook made a comment years ago that DC wouldn't hire him for any modern set stories. He could do retro stories or he could do like variant covers. And that sort of puzzled him.
Yeah.
And certainly Duke is fresh and contemporary. And certainly the artists who you have named as influences draw in, again, this is an imprecise term, but like retro styles. So was that a concern? Is that something that you think about, like how you draw or how you might get, how you're seen?
Not really, because my style, if you want to call it that, it's always changing, you know, and not really in a conscious way. And I can push the style into a more retro sort of fashion, sort of like I did with the Ant-Man book in certain places, and to an extent, The Thing, a little bit, because it takes place in the 70s, the Thing series. So you need a little bit of that retro tinge in there. And I can push it a little bit more to a modern sort of thing. That's a little bit harder to do because it's more detailed and kind of takes a little bit more time. Most modern comics nowadays got more detail and stuff in them. It also comes down to the colors that Jordy used in The Thing. A lot of pastel, nice colors, like kind of flat colors. And in the Ant-Man book, she was switching styles up the same as I was. So like the dots and the cut and grad style coloring and color holds, everything. So she was doing it all. And that enhances kind of the feeling of any sort of period that we would want to get to. I don't really consciously try and push how I draw any certain way. Like to try and make it any different. Unless I'm feeling like I'm in a rut or something, then I'll try and do something a little bit out of the ordinary. But I usually don't have a whole lot of time to experiment with how I draw. I kind of just have to get it on the page and hope it turns out okay. So,
all right. So one specific question about that final issue of Ant-Man.
mm-hmm.
There aren't outlines, right? Because it's the future, right? So like as opposed to, you know, if this is my arm, like a black line on this side and a black line on this side, and like Caucasian fill, there's just the Caucasian fill. Can you talk about that?
I just didn't want there to be any lines. I thought that would look pretty cool and clean. I did all of the color holds myself because that was a lot of work and I didn't want to saddle Jordy with doing that. So that took me a long time and it was terrible, but I did it.
Okay, can you so in terms of technique, can you be specific for our listeners? So you drew the lines and then you erase them in Photoshop, or you did the fill as a separate layer as
color
guides
holds
for Jordy?
I'm trying to explain how to do this. You can scan in lines. I drew everything just as like basic line work. So there are lines.
Outlines.
There are outlines for like a character's arm or something. You can put it into Photoshop and you can digitally kind of select all of those lines and you can then recolor them. So I didn't erase any lines, but I did fill in all of like I pretty much colored the whole thing myself in grayscale. And then I colored those lines the same colors that the fill-in was. So the lines are still there. They're just the same color as the color inside.
Okay. And if
It
I'm
was a
remembering,
little complicated because you got to make sure it all fits and it looks seamless, but it was a little bit of a slapdash thing to have to get done in a short amount of time. I essentially colored the whole thing myself, and Jordy would, I think she just filled in like with the paint bucket tool, grays and stuff. I hope she did. That's what I was hoping. I was hoping I was doing her a solid.
and all right. So, and if I have my terms right, what color a color hold refers to is that without the black lasso outline, the color would otherwise sort of spill out, and so the color is being held by like an invisible line, a line that's not there.
The color hold is just what it is called when you change the color of line work.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
and I don't know why they call it that, but that is just what it's called. So if you have a line that's black and you want to change it to like red, you put a color hold
Okay,
on
right.
that line where you select that line work, and then you can color it red.
Because in old printing, that black line is not going to be a part of the black plate. That's going to belong now to the yellow plate or the blue plate or the cyan plate. So you're
I think so.
holding it from the black plate. Mark, I feel I should toss this. I should toss this back to you for a G.I Joe question.
I was just, color hold work being done very successfully. I'd point at
Jordy
the team
uses it
in
a lot
Paper
in
Girls.
Duke too. She does a great job with the color holds in Duke.
Mm.
Better than I did in Antman, for sure.
I was going to talk about the look and the design of Duke. So a lot of the way that the characters look is sort of clearly very influenced by the designs, the classified era designs, and we can definitely see it from the likes of Stalker and Rock and Roll. Looking very much like their contemporary classified designs, and some of the other characters looking entirely different and new. Are you able to talk initially just about the use of the classified designs, and maybe what kind of like references you were given or found to do that?
I was I'm pretty sure I was just asked to use the classified designs for Stalker, Rock and Roll, and like Cover Girl, and I mean I was just given pictures of the toys for reference material. He's got the same tattoos, Rock and Roll, as he does on the toy, everything. Yeah. So I was just given them for reference, and then for other characters, like Hawk, who's got the Colonel suit on, which he usually doesn't have. And then Duke, who's got kind of a whole new getup. I was able to, there you go. I was able to come up with my own original design for him, and Hasbro was cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just drew from all this different kind of appearances, mostly the classic yellow shirt, bandolier, and kind of wanted to spiff it up for more of a modern take on it. I'd never seen him have camo pants before, so I gave him like a digital camo pant. I immediately regretted doing that, so I'm glad that he's not in this for more than this page, pretty much, in the whole book.
Because that's a complicated thing to draw.
I'm not drawing it. I've got like a pattern that, like, I kind of paint in here. I essentially just, what it is, it's a big square pattern. I pretty much just blow it up so it covers his whole kind of lower section, and then I just erase around the spots where the camo is not, so the knee pads and just the outer edges, the gun strap there, and that's just a tedious process. So I'm glad that I didn't have to do it very much.
And yeah, some of the other characters given new looks. Let me see. Oh, there we go. for example,
Baroness.
the Baroness, and sort of slightly more angular, almost Catwoman mask-esque sort of glasses and things. Were you given much direction as to, because Baroness is looking quite different to her kind of her classic interpretation? Were you given much of a steer as to the reinvention of her look here?
I was just told that she was going to be in it, and I only know of her in her like Cobra outfit with the big snake on the front. I assumed she would not be wearing that, so got to come up with a new outfit for her. And I did not have any direction or anything. Just like Black Spy. She's not affiliated with Cobra, which is not a thing. So I just I came up with a few different options, and this is the one that got picked. And I think it's pretty cool looking. And Hasbro, no notes from them or anything either. They were cool with the redesigns, just very awesome. They could have easily just said, just make it look like the toys, you know? They could have easily said that. And they were always game for a redesign whenever it called for it. The story called for the redesign here. So
optimistically, when an artist gets to throw in their 2 cents and change a little bit or drastically a design, I think, the company is being a friend to the artist, to the creative. And maybe realistically or pessimistically, I also think any variation of this costume is a future action figure, or
I'm designing toys essentially for
or video game skin.
But I'm not doing it. I'm not coming up with any of these designs thinking, oh, this would be an awesome toy. It's all story kind of related decisions and stuff. I'm not approaching it from that sort of consumerist mindset. It's like, ooh, this will make a good action figure when I am finished with it. Nah, it's mostly just all story related decisions that I'm trying to come up with, like that one.
Can you talk about this guy and what he's wearing?
Maybe he's wearing a red suit.
Maybe Mark's next slide was that.
What page are we?
That was my I assumed he wouldn't be wearing the big collar outfit all the time. He's a businessman.
Okay.
So I assumed he'd have like a suit. I love the Profit Director Destro, which is known as something else in the original line of toys.
So there's this. There's this. Where did I go?
Yeah. He's got the leopard print interior. Lining. This is my kind of callback to the Profit Director Destro.
We had suspected that.
Yeah.
So good to get the confirmation.
And I just thought he'd look cool in a suit, mean mugging. And Hasbro was cool with it once again. All these things end with usually approval from Hasbro, and they were very cool with this idea. This was not in the script. Destro was just supposed to show up.
Oh, right. Oh, crumbs.
And I said, we should maybe put him in like a sweet suit or something. And thankfully, no one said, no, that's stupid. Don't do that.
I think there might be a name for this color if this character shows up as an action figure. Riley Red.
Well, maybe. I assumed he wouldn't be in his big ass collar all the time. It got to be uncomfortable.
It was interesting because we kind of it's not until issue 5 that we have a full kind of reveal of Destro. That up to that point he's sort of in the shadows, or you're just seeing bits of his costume, but never the whole profile. So it's interesting that when we finally do see him, he looks entirely different to how he was lurking in the shadows in issue 1.
And he's coming with like a proposal and stuff, so he's looking very business-like. So
this page, slightly when I read it, slightly put me in mind of the actor Christopher Eccleston appearing as Destro at the beginning of
Right.
Oh yeah,
the Rise of Cobra, where he's not going to get his mask until the end of the movie, and he is a businessman.
he's
and
wearing the
just
suit.
wearing a suit, and then the little red family gem as like it was like a
I like his little purple ascot thing. I do.
um but it's funny that we have seen Destro so much over the years, and mostly in his battle togs, or a like Arctic variation of them, and much less so if
The
ever.
Iron Grenadier's big tube thing on his.
Yeah. Mark, do you have other costume questions?
I had an observation about this one here, which got a few people in the community excited about what information, like advanced information, are are kind of Hasbro feeding you versus what you're coming up with by yourself. Because we've had the Vamp toy, and sort of the fans are now expecting that there'll be a Stinger kind of reworking of that, and it's like, oh, they've got it in the comic. The comic is being influenced by the toys. Has Tom Reilly been given exclusive designs to the Stinger and including those in the comic?
I'm pretty sure I just used the reference that I used for the Vamp because they're the same. It's just a color swap of the Vamp.
Mhm.
I tried to make it a little different. I gave it the ram bar in the front and like the missile launcher up top, and made it a little bit sharper because I don't want it to just look exactly the same as the Vamp, which is this thing that Clutch has in his garage, even though it's fairly similar because it's the exact same model of vehicle, the Lamborghini Cheetah, I think is what it is. And no, the answer is no. I'm not being given anything fancy that I can share with you here.
Mhm.
I'm
But
just getting the reference myself.
the references and the introduction of the vehicles are sort of very, very contemporary and up to date. Like when we saw the Vamp, I don't know if people had started getting those, being receiving their orders for those yet. So it was very similar timing. I think that either the toy is just out or was about to come out. So it was a very kind of contemporary reference, and cool to see the kind of the classified Vamp design
A happy accident
being used in
I
issue
don't
2.
think that was not. There was no synergy, no brand synergy included there. I think the Vamp is just an iconic Joe vehicle, so we wanted to include it. Same as the other iconic Joe vehicles like the Sky Striker and the Mobat. The Mobat was not going to be in the book. I actually asked to put the Mobat in.
Oh wow!
It was going to be the Ram and the APC. So the motorcycle with the gun.
Yeah.
But that sequence is them like barreling through all the major blood troops and like whacking
That's
them
right,
around
yeah.
with the. I assumed you wouldn't want to be riding around in an open field full of people with guns on a motorcycle. So
maybe not.
I changed it for the tank. Harder to draw the tank, but
Mm-hmm.
they were cool with changing it to the tank. And I like the panel of them kind of getting. I have the issue right here. Let me check. I like the panel of the tank barrel swiping everybody off their feet.
That's.
I think that one's pretty fun. Let me see. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. Okay.
Tom, can you talk about sound effects?
Those are mostly Russ.
Okay.
I was doing more hand-drawn sound effects earlier.
Like from issue 2 on the screen, there was certainly some.
Yeah, I'll do them here and there. They take a lot of time to get to look good, unless they're like sort of wonky, like the Kirsch thing there. So super clean sort of sound effects, I will usually leave to Russ, and he does a great job. But I'll do them here and there. I wonder if, and I sometimes wonder if I should just do them all, or just not do any of them.
Presumably, if you do them, someone doing foreign language re-lettering on these files might have to paint them out.
Yeah, and redo their own.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
Vroom universal though, or no?
What's French for vush?
You ask someone who speaks another language, and you ask them about sort of common onomatopoeias, and it turns out that, like,
I'm sure they all have their own.
Yeah, basic ones like a phone ringing or a cat meowing are I think often quite different.
Josh loves a specific one. Tersh, Trshh. He loves this one, and this is hand drawn. This sound effect I think is in every single issue of G.I Joe, or a Duke here. This Tersh.
Tersh.
I like that one too. That's not one I'd ever really thought of. It's a fun sound effect.
Another comics drawing question. Duke, Superman, Antman, Thing. These are all solo books. And drawing a solo book is quite different than drawing a team book. And of course, Duke is a kind of team book. Do you think about wanting to do a team book or not wanting to do a team book, or sort of there isn't much of a difference?
Team books are definitely hard. There's more characters, more thoughtful compositions are required in panels. Duke sort of is like a team book. There's like 5-6 characters at once in a scene, which is probably as many as you would get in a team book rationally, except for like a big spread where everyone is there. So it'd be a lot more work for sure, but I would never say no to an opportunity to try something different, because they are the books I have done, mostly solo books. Even though issue 4 of Ant-Man, kind of a team book, there's like 4 Ant-Men, and they're all in the panels doing stuff. So I would do it for sure. It would be more work, but sometimes you just got to see if that's something you're capable of doing, and you got to say yes. So I think it'd be fun.
I mean, we talked about how effective the back and forth between the characters in that pit sort of breakout sequence was, the cutting between Duke, Clutch, was it Rock and Roll, as they're sort of doing battle with the Bloodhounds, which was going to be one of my questions as well about the Bloodhounds. They were one of my favorite additions to the G.I Joe lore. And it was just a really, I think, elegant way of that. We've got these cool new classified designs, which is what is used for Major Blood.
Yep.
And then we've got the vintage, 1980s design of Major Blood, which is also very cool, different. But how, this is having these Bloodhounds in that classic uniform. Was such a clever way of being able to get the best of both worlds. Definitely have your cake and eat it.
I thought it'd be a fun callback to have them be in the uniforms of the old Major Blood, because that's an awesome looking uniform too, and it saves me the trouble of having to come up with some myself, which it takes a lot of time. So
and on the script, what were you asked for when for these Bloodhound characters?
I just said the Bloodhounds descend from a helicopter.
Right.
And I floated out that maybe we just used the old Major Blood design for those, with like variations. One's got sleeveless shirt, one's got like kind of riding boots, gloves, and long sleeve shirt. So to kind of individualize them. And
there's a great bit of cartooning on some of the expressions of these guys as
well. I assume these guys are just like weird, ugly, just like classic henchmen dudes. So I love drawing those types of guys with like interesting profiles, and like that's where I got my fix for that sort of stuff with the Bloodhounds here.
Tom, when you think about you drawing comics down the line, do you think about writing your own comics?
I've never tried, so I would not say no to giving that a shot. It is already hard enough for me to like draw the books, so I can't imagine doing the writing too. That would probably be something that would take a long time for me to figure out. I have plenty of friends who do write and draw, so I'm sure that I could pick their brain about it. But at the moment, I am enjoying my drawing. I think it's fun, and I'm going to continue probably doing that without the writing at the moment. I probably have to take like a writing class or something. I don't know anything about writing.
And then these 4 miniseries, Ant-Man Thing, Superman, Night Terrors, Night Terror, Superman, and Duke, superhero, sort of horror superhero, and action. Are there genres or character types that you have an itch to do, or is this sort of, a wide open buffet at an early point in your career?
Not really. Not really an itch for anything. I never thought I'd be drawing anything related to G.I Joe, in all honesty. So that was a surprise, and it was a new challenge for me to try and do. I kind of try and keep the options open. So if there is something interesting that I didn't really foresee me getting offered, I may take that just to see how I fare at it. I didn't know how I would do doing the G.I. Joe book, doing the military kind of hard ass sort of stuff, because I'm usually doing the more fun superhero books that are a little more bombastic and ridiculous. So I didn't know how the more grounded sort of approach to storytelling would work. I hope people liked it. But no, there's nothing I'm really itching to draw. I always like drawing superhero stuff. So if I ever get asked to do covers and stuff for like Marvel and DC or like little stories, I usually take those because I think that's fun to do. And you're
I
putting
was
me
just
up
going
here
to
with
say,
Daniel, and you're embarrassing me.
speaking of grounded realism, I've just stuck on the screen a side by side of Transformers issue 2 by Daniel Warren Johnson and
I didn't know this
Duke
was a
issue.
roasting here.
No.
I think the two of you have very highly developed skills in different areas, and it is not that kind of comparison.
Okay.
No, this isn't trying to make you look bad, because I think that you definitely more than hold your own. There's differences in the style, and those differences aren't weaknesses. I was just gonna. I think you guys were both working on this almost in parallel around about time of San Diego when all of this was being announced. Can you maybe sort of just talk and sort of for those who haven't read or are forgetting, in Transformers issue 2 there was an extended sequence of a few pages where this Duke sequence happens of him and Frosting being attacked by Starscream, which is then sort of summarized in the pages of Duke 1 in a more condensed way. Can you sort of talk about that process of sort of recreating this and working on it in parallel?
Sure.
with Daniel?
This was the inks for this page, I think, were done when I was asked to do kind of my version of it. And there were stipulations. Starscream couldn't really be shown like in full. That's why he's mostly in silhouette. And I kind of wanted it to be from Duke's point of view here, so I tried to keep it like close on him as much as possible, and you're seeing things through the reflection of the visor, like the splat there, which is a reverse of the sound effect that Daniel used in Transformers #2. I just kind of copied
exactly
it
the
in
same
reverse.
lettering style.
Yeah. And so keep it close, keep Starscream in black mostly, keep things in the reflection of the visor. And having Starscream be silhouetted was the toughest thing, I think, because he's got a lot of different parts that are like, if you kind of have him all black, he just look like a big weird starfish, not really distinguishable. So finding places to pick where to put the blacks and where to leave it out, even if realistically those things would probably be black, like his wings there in the back. Those would probably be blacked out, but that would ruin the whole silhouette pretty much. So picking where to spot the blacks and how to stage the action where it was readable, but also kind of hides a lot of what is going on. Because I think the idea was I don't think we really wanted to know if what Duke saw is like 100% real, or if he like doesn't exactly know what he himself saw. So we want to hide the main action from the viewer as much as we can. And it is kind of a parallel to Daniel's, which is just big and open and super colorful and awesome, and everything is on full display. It was fun to get to kind of do my take on that.
The negative silhouette of Frosty in that first panel in front of the silhouetted Starscream is a real bold compositional win.
A lot of things are born from the saving of time. So those chairs, the fighter pilot chairs, are full of detail and they're super complicated. And I drew them on the last. There's like a spread with Starscream in it, and the two of them in their chairs, kind of shooting up. Those chairs were a pain in the ass to draw. I didn't want to do it again. And I thought it might have gotten lost a little bit if there was too much detail in the. There it is. Yeah, look at those chairs. At least I guess I drew it one time, and once was enough. But
Is
Starscream mostly in black there with the sun kind of shining.
We asked if you were a G.I. Joe fan before all of this. Were you a Transformers fan? Was drawing a Transformer, even if mostly obscured, in this scene, did that scratch any kind of childhood or artistic itch?
I feel like most people are. I'm sorry, this is Talking Joe.
No.
I feel like most people are more Transformers fans usually a little bit than G.I. Joe fans. I did like Transformers. I had the toys. I saw the cartoons and I saw the movies. But I was never super, like I didn't have a lot of the toys. I once again was not super into it, but I knew more about it. And Starscream is my guy. I like Starscream the best. So to be able to draw him was super cool. Challenging, because again, you got to kind of spot the blacks in here to obscure him, sort of, but still make him readable to the viewer. So it was a challenge for sure, and I was drawing him pretty large. This again, though, is an 11 by 17 flipped, so it's really just 11 inches tall, probably 15 inches wide. But it was definitely cool to be able to draw Starscream.
As for this being a G.I. Joe podcast, you will note that there is a G.I. Joe vehicle behind me, but much bigger is a Transformer behind me.
I do see the big Transformer.
Which I actually have sort of as an ongoing joke. Speaking of silhouettes and saving time, this panel from the beginning of issue 4, which I talked about when we went over issues 4 and 5. Sometimes I think about Doonesbury and how Gary Trudeau is like in a daily strip. It's 3 or 4 panels, and it might be like next year at the White House with a word balloon, and then 3 panels of talking heads, and one of them is no matter what silhouettes, which just gives some graphical variety. And then this happens on the Sunday strips, maybe like 2 out of the 10 are silhouettes. It just gives it some variety, so it sits differently on the page, but also it saves time. And
also, Baroness's outfit is all black, and she's on a black background. And she would have been invisible, so I kind of had to do the silhouette there.
My
going back to the beginning of Mark, do you have a question about before I jump back to before issue one?
No, you continue. Go
on. Can you quantify for us, Tom, what kind of prep or sketches or pitch artwork you did before you drew issue 1 of Duke?
What I did was I came up with the initial Duke design with the vest, and then got that approved. And then I did the first cover to issue 1, because that was kind of the big promo image, and that is where a lot of the feedback kind of was front loaded into, because that's the first image you're going to see of this whole thing. So we wanted to make sure that it was correct and that it looked good. And then like Transformers in San Diego, there was like a 5-page ash can of preview pages. So I'm pretty sure I was given the first half of the script a little bit earlier than the back half, just so that I could get those ash can pages done for New York, and for like print in the back of the Transformers issue 2 and all that stuff, which came out months before Duke #1. And I also drew just kind of a promo lineup, like, of the characters standing for New York Comic Con and for posters for comic book shops.
Yep.
So several different art pieces I had to do before. Yeah, that one. That's the one. And that became a variant cover also for the, I think, second or third printing of the first issue.
This logo, I assume that this is a discussion separate from you. This is a publication designer, if not Russ Wooten, the letterer.
It is not Russ. It is somebody else, and I wish I.
Oh, sorry, I've got it here. It's Andres Juarez.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's an awesome logo. And I remember thinking the first time I saw it, damn, that is an awesome logo. It gives you just the feeling of this grounded military badass story. So I like this a lot.
I guess I don't have a question. I guess I'm just that's it's. I guess
I
I'm
had
just
nothing
agreeing.
to do with that.
Okay,
I did ask for the file though, so that I could, when I do covers, you want to make sure there's enough space for the logo.
You don't want the Baroness's silencer to sort of perfectly line up between the U and the K.
Right.
That was actually a total accident. That it ended up like that. I only wanted it to kind of be in front. I didn't think about where it was going to fall, and it went right in between the space and the U, and it was good.
When I saw that cover, I thought to myself, I should look at this and compare it to the previous issue. If someone had to make the logo like 10% smaller so that silencer definitely sits in front of. Oh, these were drawn separately. Well, I
drew those separately. I originally had a different pose for Duke. And again, I was doing this one. I did not have as much time as I would have liked to have drawn it. So I drew him a little bit bigger next to it, and then I just slotted him in there. And we were talking about color holds earlier. The Baroness's outfit is all white with black lines in the line art. And I did some color holds, changed them from a black to a gray on the final piece. And I probably messed with her proportions a little bit. There's always a little bit of digital stuff that you do.
Yeah, you might
finished up a cover.
You might like lasso someone's hand and like turn it 5 degrees.
I probably made her hand a little smaller, and I probably made her neck a little longer. Something like that. It's things that I can see right now. And maybe her left shoulder on the right there, I might have brought that in a little bit too. I'm now just seeing everything I did wrong in this drawing, but it's okay. That's what the Photoshop is for.
Mark, go back to the final cover.
I do want to see if if I can see a difference there.
Yeah, I think I can. It does. Yeah. Some of the things you're describing does look like.
I think her
Very
hand's a little
subtle
smaller.
differences there.
Maybe her right arm is a little bit smaller too.
Yeah. Tom, do you have friends and family who are G.I Joe fans or comics fans, and you get your box of comps from Skybound and you get to do this like victory distribution?
I wish I could distribute the comps I have more effectively. The boxes are piling up. I think I've got like 500 issues of Duke or something.
Wow.
Which I love that they send them to me. I appreciate it, and keep them coming. If you're listening, I love it. It's super fun. But I have probably about 500. At some point, I'll be able to like build the foundation of a house somewhere with them.
I am assuming that is hyperbole. That is exaggeration.
No, I probably have about 250.
What?
Just throwing this out there. If you live in a place where children at the end of October can ring a doorbell or knock on a door and expect candy,
comics instead.
Maybe all 5 issues.
Sure. I have a lot of copies because they send me comps of the original covers. They send me comps of the variant covers. They send me comps of the second printing covers. They send me comps of the third printing covers. They're going to send me comps of the trade paperback, and keep them coming. I love it. I'd give them out to people who want them, but I try not to sound too desperate to give them away either.
I was going to say you could give them to the kids for Halloween. Give them a copy of the David Mack variant, and they can pay for college or something.
Yeah, no, I didn't get one of those. I don't think.
Interestingly, the collection is not going to reprint the covers if the Void Rivals Volume 1 is sets a precedent. And the cover price of the Duke Volume 1 collection is $14.99, which is notably less than buying the 5 issues.
That's not bad.
I don't know if this is sort of the like post-pandemic paper shortage inflation version of Image Volume 1s being $9.99 for so long, or if this is like an Energon Universe thing for its 3 Volume 1s so far. But
that's cool.
As a store owner, I gotta say, as a reader, I'm a little bummed that they're not squeezing in the covers, just the A covers.
Yeah.
As a seller, man, keeping this book is not $20 or $25 is great.
Are they using this cover for the?
That is the direct market exclusive variant,
right.
And the regular
and number 1 is.
Yeah, the regular cover that comic shops can order and all other outlets will get.
Okay, they don't tell me any of this stuff. I have no idea. So.
You don't spend hours a day on catalog websites and comic book news websites.
That is above my level. I'm down in the basement drawing. Distribution and marketing is not what I am called upon for.
Do you have convention or store appearances lined up for this year?
I always try and make it to New York just because I think that one's fun. So I might be at New York. It's not a sure thing. And right now that's it. Usually when I'm like, I don't really want to travel right now. So I'm in the middle of my break, sort of. So I'm not thinking about conventions.
I was really
right
hoping
now.
that
just hypothetically, would you drive an hour? Would you drive an hour north?
I just forgot that I had one. Wicked Comic-Con. I'll be there.
Oh, okay.
In Massachusetts, in Boston.
Yeah. I think we're getting the flyers.
Nice. I'll be there.
If not drive an hour, would you hop on Amtrak, which is like 38 minutes?
I love the train to Boston. That's how I never drive there because I hate driving in Boston. So I take the train every time.
Well, I know someone with a comic book store in Boston.
Nice.
Maybe there's a conversation to be had at the end of this after the end of this episode.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, I was in middle of saying I was really hoping that that it would come together that some of the Skybound comics team would make it to Joe Fest in Atlanta, Georgia this summer, which is the kind of the dedicated G.I Joe, the biggest of the G.I Joe conventions.
That'd be cool.
Which just so happens that I'm making my way across the pond this year. So
very cool.
Just so that we can sort of put a pin into those two facts for listeners. New York Comic Con this year is in October, and Wicked Comic Con is in August in Boston, not outside of Boston, actually.
In the Seaport,
Boston.
yeah.
Yes.
The Westin Boston Seaport Hotel is where it is this year, right next to the convention center.
Yeah.
I had some sort of I Spy details that maybe you could put a pin on for things that we've discussed as we've been looking through the issues. One of the ones that we thought was really fun was this "I Want to Believe" poster in Dr. Burkhart's party, and which is obviously sort of a throwback to X-Files. But what we noticed was that in the summer last year there was a launch by Super 7 of the Cobra mothership, which was also using "I Want to Believe," where there's a big Cobra ship in the background. We wondered whether that was a thought process for this poster, as well as the obvious X-Files connection.
Again, there's no brand synergy at all. This was Josh. This was in the script. He wanted the "I Want to Believe" poster with the arc on it. Okay. So that's what I did. And I didn't know anything about the Super 7 line or any of that.
I thought because I think it would have been at San Diego if you were there. Yeah, you were there, weren't you? Oh no, okay, you were just
at
the
New York
New York
last year.
Yeah. The other one was Mars Industries logo, which is a fantastic logo. Okay, so it's like the arc of the planet with the red planets kind of there. I think the most direct question is, where did this logo come from?
I was given this logo. I asked for, is there a logo for the company? And this is, I'm pretty sure, the classified version of the Mars logo. So just provided it.
While we're on this panel, do you remember something in the plot or the script about the design of this building, or is this all you? Because this is me, but it's a particular kind of building.
I swiped the design of the building from one in Washington, D.C. because this story takes place, at least the first part, in D.C. This is, I think, the National Spy Museum or something.
I've been there.
Yeah. So I wanted to firmly plant it in a place in D.C. And this one looked just especially kind of evil and weird. And it's a spy story, at the start. So I figured him doing spy stuff in the spy museum would be funny. And I think it's a striking looking building too. It looks very Destro. In real life, it's like black and red and stuff. And just really kind of sinister looking. So I stole it. Yeah. And I hope, Good. And so it firmly puts Mars Industries somewhere in DC and on like a real street.
Again, this is now issue 2. Duke is in a bad way. He's gone into Clutch's auto repair yards into the interior of the building to be helped out, and something is taken into like a dish that has been extracted from Duke. What are the things in the?
Those are bullets that have been compressed, mushed, as they do when they're, so they don't really look exactly like bullets, but.
So my second guess was corn nuts.
That would be, he doesn't know how to eat them right, I guess. No, those are bullets. Excellent. I guess I should have done a better job drawing those bullets, but
Mark, how dare you
win 'em
offend
all.
our guest?
You can't win them all. You can't bat 1,000.
No, you know what? I actually think you're fine here because I've seen several movies and TV shows where someone pulls a bullet out of someone and it's this compressed nub. And in my brain, I think
They're made of lead, yeah. So they
Well,
they compress and they. I mean,
well, I also feel like
I don't know if they're made of lead anymore.
I feel like when I see those, I think, where's the shell?
Oh, it
And
flies off. Yeah.
of course, there is no
Yeah,
shell,
yeah.
right? Because I did riflery as a kid at summer camp, and it's like we think of like
As an Eagle
bullets.
Scout, I did too.
Ah,
I think
That's me firing a rifle up there.
Yeah, I think that the discussion at the time was: is it glass? Is it Duke's teeth, or is it a bullet, or is it some very strange corn accident? So it's good to good
Confirmed
to get
bullets,
confirmed.
kind of deformed from the impact.
I've got two quick questions. One, can you talk about Mercer's costume?
Yes. I just kind of designed it to be sort of like a Mars Industries security outfit, because he's like kind of head of security for Mars.
And maybe allude to the original toy?
A little bit with the vest and the red coloring. So.
And then my second.
Yeah, that's it. Nothing super complicated. And this is designed on the page too, just really quick and dirty.
Wow. This isn't like sending pictures to Image to send to Hasbro.
This was full Maverick mode. I just did it, and they were okay with it.
Mark, we have a scoop. He's going to put Maverick into another.
No.
And then second quick question. Can you talk about inking with a pen, inking with a brush?
I ink with this thing predominantly. The Zebra.
All right.
Disposable pocket brush pen.
Okay.
You can get it on jet pens.
Oh yeah, I know lots of comics artists like that website.
I just buy a bunch of these, and
are you
I wear them down.
Are you
There's
using
kind of a silver fat one here?
Okay.
With more of a brush tip, and then I have this thing that you fill up with ink. It's like a Pentel color brush pen, and this thing screws off if I can get it off here. Yep. And you just fill it with ink of your choice, and then you screw it back on. So that's pretty much everything that I use. And a mechanical pencil, an eraser.
Yeah, and you can on the original artboards, you can just about make out some of the sort of slight differences in tone. So like that bottom right hand silhouetted head. I think I'm guessing that you did the outline in one pen and then the solid black on the inside in.
I ran out of ink. I'm pretty sure one. That might be a Sharpie. That might be a Sharpie on the very end.
That's got the telltale purple brown of Sharpie.
So I needed something to fill it in. I just had a Sharpie that I usually just use to sign books and stuff, but I filled it in there.
This is
Sharpie.
This is a comment not to our professional guest, who we're grateful for his time. This is a comment for any budding artists listening or watching this episode. Kids, remember, Sharpie ink is not archival.
No, it's
don't
not.
Ink with Sharpies.
It gets the job done, kids. It gets the job done. When you need it in the pinch, it gets the job done.
Don't rule your panel gutters in Sharpie.
Don't do that. Yeah, it bleeds, and it's ugly. But I was desperate, and
I'm sure all
Mr.
the kids
Sharpie came to my aid.
I'm sure all the kids who are listening to this are like, "What are you talking about, Tim? I draw in Photoshop and Clip Studio Pro."
Jim Lee draws his sketches in exclusively Sharpie, pretty much.
Yeah.
And they're awesome.
Well,
I mean,
they're not cheap though.
It may be a mindset thing where if you draw it with a crummy material, you're not worrying about it, and then it can be more energetic or loose. It's not like a finished drawing on fancy materials for publication. I understand that mindset, but I own a piece of art that was drawn with a Pentel pen,
nice.
And it is it is going away. It's not in
Really?
sunlight, and it's behind museum glass, and it is just fading and fading.
I
30
used
years
to use
old.
those little sign pens, and I don't anymore. I use a little bit more stuff I need to order off the internet. So, and I don't often use Sharpies. That was a special case I needed to get something just inked in.
I'm glad we could have this little side conversation, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
could indirectly give you a hard time about this.
I was doing something. If you know about the archival qualities of things, I actually have a question for you. I have it right here. It's totally dried out now, but when I was drawing Superman, my girlfriend had this like eyeliner pen that drew these super thin, super pure black lines. And it's 100% waterproof. I tested it, everything. I like poured water on it. I rubbed it. Nothing came off. And I used it to draw Aquaman's scales in the Superman book because Aquaman shows up. And I could kind of draw just the perfect scales with it. This thing. I have no idea if this is going to last.
Did
in
you
any
say
sort of professional?
Did you say eyeliner like it's makeup?
Yeah, it's makeup. It's a makeup thing. It's purely, it's 100% waterproof. It's more waterproof than the pens and stuff that I use. I tested all of them.
I don't know. That's a fascinating question and an experiment. Maybe you're starting a trend, or maybe in 5 or 20 years that those pages will.
It's not going to be a trend. This thing was like $15 and it lasted an issue. So, but it worked. It did what I wanted it to do, and it
So
did
that's
it very
even
well.
that's even thinner than the like 0.005 micron.
It's like a brush.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a synthetic brush, like my Pentel brush pen, and it just drew this pure black waterproof line. And it was the perfect thickness just to do the really quick, just Aquaman scales.
Another technique question. There are lots of comics artists who are using like Google SketchUp or 3D programs to either assist with or fully create backgrounds and environments. And maybe they draw digitally sort of into them, or maybe they're drawing on paper and then compositing them together. Do you think about doing some of that kind of digital work?
I don't do that. I can see how it saves time, and I can see how it saves time for people who are doing a lot of books, like high-profile books. I don't do it. I'm just not good at that computer stuff, so I tend to not do that. And I don't know if I'll ever draw digitally either, just because I don't really have the time to learn, and I can't sell a digital page. You can sell the prints, but I don't think I would want to do that.
Right.
So probably not. I don't think so.
If listeners are looking for an example, World's Finest issue 26, which came out, I think, a week ago, the Batman Superman team up book that Dan Mora draws the scenes at the beginning in the Batcave. The Batcave is all like 3D modeled.
And Dan Mora can draw anything. So
yeah,
he can draw anything. He doesn't need to prove he can draw it. So that's a tool that you can use to speed up the process. And he definitely needs it because he's on 12 books. They all look amazing. So I think he gets a little bit of slack. I probably wouldn't do it, even if it may make like some of my perspective better or whatever, my sense of space building a little bit better. I just don't know if that's something I would try to do. I don't think my laptop could handle it. I think it would explode.
Mark, I might be out of questions.
I had a sort of very high level question, which was in terms of putting this book together. What was the most fun? What was the hardest? And was there anything that particularly surprised you about the process of working on the book?
What was the most fun? I might have had the most fun at the end with the bat fight. I thought that was super fun. Him kind of deadlifting the head off of the robot.
Yeah, that was great sequence.
That was not. It did not go exactly that way in the script, but I thought I'd never seen someone do that before, so
Huh.
I might
Okay,
give
tell
it a
us
try.
tell us about that then. The process of, because our discussion of it, it's sort of just such interesting choreography of that battle between Duke and the Bat. Do you want to talk about how that all came together then?
I think in the script he was supposed to be behind him and just kind of wrench his head off, like through the from the back or something. And I just ended up having an idea that I threw in the layouts, saying like, we don't have to do this if you want to do it the other way, but I had never seen this done before, and I thought it might be pretty cool. And Josh was like, "Yeah, it's pretty cool." So that's how it ended up going. And most complicated, probably everything with the pit, just figuring out the layout of the pit and like the room with all the weapons and stuff in the pit, like the old decommissioned vehicles and all of that sort of stuff. Because the pit's always got those insane layout pictures, and I'm not super proud of the one I turned in. It's based off of one, like a classic one. I think this is the last page I drew for this issue, and I was just like, I had to be finished for my sanity. But that sort of stuff can be tough to draw, and I could get better at drawing it. I would like to. I'd like to think I will improve as time goes on. But that was the toughest one for me. And then, what was the last
I wondered
part
whether I wondered whether your layouts here sort of inspired Tyler Boss in terms of the variant that he did. I'm guessing you two must be buddies because you sneaked in a picture of his
car,
Kia,
yeah.
was it? His car.
His stolen car. We are buddies. We have the same art rep. So he is a good friend of mine. And it was cool to see that he got the variant cover gig. I did not throw his name in or anything. So,
right.
Because he, in his own right, is a very good artist and a very good writer too. So talk about a guy who writes and draws his own stuff. Like you were asking earlier, he is very good at both of those. No, I actually did that totally independent of his layout. So
the last part of the question was what was the most surprising sort of aspects from working on the project?
Probably just how much I ended up liking it at the end, the G.I. Joe sort of stuff. Like I said, I'm not really a super fan of the property, and I didn't really get into comics to draw this sort of stuff, even though I recognize G.I. Joe as a comics property. I think it's a pretty prestige property that Larry Hama run. It's like 60 years going. That's like a legendary run of comics. I never thought personally I'd be doing something on the G.I. Joe side of comics, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was super fun, and that surprised me.
And I mean, as well, the success of the Skybound Energon Universe, the number of reprints that we've been seeing, the sales numbers, it's been a phenomenal, launch for this sort of new era.
This is by far the best selling thing I've ever drawn, by far. So yeah, that is surprising. Also, I guess it's not, because Skybound is known for the quality of, and I'm not a brand spokesman here or anything, but Skybound is known for putting out good stuff. Robert Kirkman, he's been around the block. Everyone at Skybound, they take it very seriously, and they put out quality work. And this is something that could have failed, but I think they're doing a really good job with it.
Absolutely. And I guess talking to the reaction as well, to sort of have you been Have you been pleased to see the reaction, the reviews that have been coming out?
I try not to look, but I always end up looking, you know, just a little bit. And yeah, if people seem to enjoy it, and that is very cool to me. Thankfully, not a whole lot of people saying like I suck, stuff like that, which is always nice to see. Yeah, I'm glad people are liking it. It's important that old Joe fans and maybe potentially new Joe fans enjoy the book in equal measure, and maybe make some new fans also, which I've seen a lot of people say. I wasn't, like me, super into G.I. Joe, and now I'm kind of along for the ride. So that was cool to see.
Are you sort of turning from someone not really knowing the property so well to having working on it and becoming a fan? Have you sort of gone back and sort of, you know, discovered for the first time some of the back history, or have you been tempted to go out and buy like one of these guys or anything after
I might have to
spending
pick up a Duke. I might have to pick up a Sergeant Slaughter. That's my guy. But
how is Sergeant Slaughter your guy?
I just thought he was cool. He's the one that I always thought was cool. And he's like I always thought it was cool that he's a real guy. But they just threw him into G.I. Joe. So he's like also this like hyper fictionalized, I guess in real life he is this hyper fictionalized, super macho, this wrestling guy. But I always thought it was cool how they would throw real people into G.I. Joe. And they just, like, Sergeant Slaughter is like a staple G.I. Joe character. It's cool. I like Shipwreck too. That's one of my favorites. I love the parrot.
There we go. Shipwreck miniseries by Tom Reilly.
Maybe.
Written, penciled, inked, colored, and lettered.
It'll be the last thing I ever do if I do all of that. Yeah.
Okay. How about, you know what? We keep saying miniseries. How about just a special? Just 40 pages.
40 pages.
Well, which is fewer than 100.
You're right. I do know that.
Think of a special like a 2-issue miniseries. I think what is exciting about your work on the Duke miniseries is that not speaking ill at all of the 3 previous miniseries, but in comparison, since those are Antman and Thing, high profile because they, that was for a year before an Ant-Man movie came out. Thing because of the writer. Superman because it's a tie-in to a big event.
And it's Superman. He's the greatest.
But that this is the beginning of a new continuity.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is possible that many years from now, if you are still drawing comics, or if you have moved into other art fields, or you're like, doing something that's not art, like, fixing cars or painting houses,
hopefully.
I think it is possible that you will be particularly remembered for this miniseries.
That's cool.
Because it is the beginning of something, and not like issues, 16 to 21, or like a special that sort of got lost in a shuffle while other bigger events were going on, and the fact that the writing is great, the art is great, the color is great, the lettering is great, the package design is great. It's like, it would be exciting if it were pretty good and the beginning of a new something. But this is where I'll just open up a little bit without embarrassing myself.
Sure.
But I will say that when Ant-Man was published and when The Thing was published, I remember flipping through it and thinking, oh, this art is really good. This art and storytelling is really good, and color as part of that. Mm-hmm. And sort of abstractly, I thought, man, this guy would never draw G.I. Joe. That's really too bad. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show, because both Mark and I have liked this project, but also have liked your work before this.
I'm very happy to be here, and it's very cool to be on the ground floor or something. It's never happened for me before, you know. I've never been given, you know, the I guess the keys to the car, to the house, whatever,
To the vamp.
to the vamp. Like to have that trust put in me by like Robert and everyone at Skybound, Josh. It's super cool, and it's something I hope that I brought my A game to, and it was a very cool experience to get to do something like that, help build something out from the ground up, because that's not in kind of the way American comics are. That is not really something you get to do with these big brands a whole lot, is kind of start over, do a new thing. It's always a continuation, and you're kind of always coming in from where somebody left off, you know? And this is not the case for this. It's kind of a unique situation. And hopefully it goes on, you know, for a long time.
And the blessing that we have with this book, but also the curse, is that it's so good, and it's it's such a great start, but also like everything to come is being like, it's good, but is it as good as Duke?
So, it'll be good. It'll be awesome.
It's a good
Scarlet. It's
a good
an awesome artist on it. The Destro book's got an awesome artist on it. It's got Dan Waters writing. I think everything will be good. Jorge taking over from Daniel on art duties for Transformers. He's incredible. I think it'll be just as good going forward, hopefully.
I will say, while we're sort of looking abstractly into the future of other things that you might draw, I would also be happy if you were to draw G.I. Joe again, not in the Energon universe, but in the other long-established continuity.
Larry Hama.
Yes, I would have no problem with that.
That is a prestige book, like I said. That'd be a crazy opportunity. Because he's been doing that forever. So, who knows? Right now, I'm enjoying sitting around. I was actually able to go out and like grill something with my girlfriend the other day outside. It was awesome. So,
is the am I imagining the months that you were drawing these issues? This is like wake up, draw all day, go to sleep late, wake up, draw all day, go to sleep late.
That's usually how working in comics goes. I take frequent breaks, you know, and maybe I'm not drawing every minute I'm at the table, but I'm doing like some research, looking up references or writing emails, or like just something that is not involving pen to paper, but I still count that as work. My mind is being, you know, activated in sort of a workplace sort of frame of mind. So that still counts as work, even if it's not drawing. But it's mostly work while I'm awake, and then sleep, and then get up and do it again. But I love doing it, so just try not to burn myself out on it, that sort of stuff.
We hope this break lasts as long as is reasonably helpful, and that the next project that comes along is just the right one and not too soon.
And it's an interior break, because those are the ones that those are the most intensive sort of jobs. I'm still doing covers and stuff, so it's not really a full-on break. I always say I'm going to take a full-on break, and then I don't. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely look forward to finding out what the next thing coming from you will be. And in the meantime, if people want to find you, you've got a website. You're on Instagram.
Don't send them to my website. I'm trying to
people wanna-
cancel my subscription to Squarespace because I just
Well,
Okay.
I don't need the website.
Your website that's like 4 years old?
No, it's about 8 years old. And it's got an email on it that I can no longer access. So don't go to my website. Yeah, just go to my Twitter and Instagram.
I think the good news here is that if an art director or editor were trying to reach you that way, if they were not smart enough to piece together that the email address on the website is clearly out of date and didn't try and find you another way, that's perhaps an art director or editor you wouldn't want to work with.
It's true, but it also costs me $250 a year, and I want to get rid of it. But I need that email address that I don't have access to in order to cancel my subscription to Squarespace. So I am in a pickle.
Okay, so maybe it's just after a year or two, something doesn't get renewed and it just shuts down.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
That's the long version.
Oh dear.
Hopefully.
And if people want to buy something very cool and send you some bucks, modernmythologyart.com is the place that they can go to get hold of one of these amazing original pages that we've been sharing along on the screen as we've been going, which in my view, very reasonably priced. Definitely something that is in arm's reach of a fan to access. So
yeah, and
check it out.
That's important. Don't want to price anybody out.
Mark, should we say Tom's Instagram aloud?
Twitter is Tom Reilly Art.
Okay.
Is Instagram also Tom
Same
Reilly
thing.
Art?
I've streamlined it.
It's the way to go. And if you want to find us, and this is new for you, you can find us on talkingjoe.co.uk. That is the website to all of the places we are at. If you want to find Tim when he's not talking to me, he is in a variety of places. Tim?
Video essays on television and film at our YouTube channel at Atomic Abe. My comic book store is Hub Comics, and I write about G.I Joe at arealamericanbook.com.
Very good. So I think we are done. That was great, Tom. Really, really good chatting with you about Duke, and particularly as we've enjoyed reading it and discussing it so much over the last 5 months or so. It's been a blast, and what a great introduction to a new universe and a whole bunch of new readers to this world of G.I Joe that we're so passionate about. So it's off to a great start.
Oh, thank you, and thank you once again for having me on the show. It was a lot of fun.
Stick around after the screen goes black.
Sure.
And that is us done, and it just remains for Tim to say that
Nobody Beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Laters.
That was awesome.